So hello everyone, I'm back with my next YouTube video. It contains all the information regarding assessment and returns. So before knowing everything about the topic assessment and returns, let us first understand what does the word assessment means. Assessment basically means determining the tax liability of a person, or put in simple words, it basically means the value or amount of a tax a person should pay to the government. Okay. And returns. Returns means what? Returns means basically there's a form. Okay. Whenever person whenever person pays the tax, they fill a form in which where he makes disclosure about what are his incomes, what is the sale, what is the purchase, what is his expenses. So all the disclosure are made in that form. That form should be filed, the return form, which we say, the return should be filed with the government. Okay. So, so moving ahead, there are different types of assessment. So assessment can be classified on the basis of by taxpayer and by tax authorities. By taxpayer, simple thing, it is self-assessment. As the word itself says, self-assessment means every registered taxable person shall himself. The person himself assesses the tax payable and furnish a return for each period. Okay. So see when if you want. So here the important word is person shall himself assess the taxes payable. So coming to next is provisional assessment. Provisional assessment is done by the income tax authorities. So when is the provisional assessment done? So leaving these words, theory, everything, let us put it in a simple way. For example, if I'm a registered taxable person, and I'm a small taxpayer. Obviously, if I'm a small taxpayer, I won't have a CA, CS, or any this auditor sitting at my place. I'm a small taxpayer, a small business person. So what I do is, being a small taxpayer, I don't know correct provisions. I don't know how to determine the value, how to determine the rate. So I will request a tax authority officer to provisionally assess that how much amount I should pay to the tax authorities as my tax. Okay. Because I am not able to determine the value or rate. Now, when I tell I am not able to determine the value, it means that I'm not able to calculate the transaction values, or I'm not able to understand which receipts should be included and which should be not. Okay. And when I tell that I'm not able to understand the rate of tax, which means that I'm not able to classify that which things I should take in as a service of goods and which I should identify. And whenever there is an update or notifications, will it be applicable to me or no? Okay. So because of all these confusions, I will go near the tax authorities. And there one officer will assess. So when I request the officer to assess my tax liability, he will give me a provisional assessment. He will give me amount that is provisional. Okay. Provisional always means not final. It is provisional. So within 3 months from my request, that is 90 days, that is 3 months from my request, he will give me a value that will be provisional. Okay. After that, I should give a bond security. I will give a bond security to the tax authorities telling that I'm promising them that if there is any difference amount between the if there is any difference between the provisionally assessed tax and final assessed tax, I'm ready to pay. Okay. Then once I pay the provisional tax, then the taxpayer, the authority, the officer will assess my final tax. What is the final assessment? So before final assessments, he will ask me few information and few documents. Okay. Then within 6 months, he will give me the finalized assessment value. That much tax I must pay. Then, if whatever tax I paid before, whatever paid before is more, okay, if I paid more tax on provisional basis, then I should get a refund. If I get a refund, that time the government or the tax authorities have to pay me 6% interest. Okay. And if I have paid less and I have to pay more now, I'm liable to pay more. So the date on which they tell me कि you are liable to pay so and so amount, and then I do delay in paying, then from that day I'm liable to pay 18% interest. Okay, I am liable to pay 18% interest. Understood? I hope this is clear. If you have any doubts, you can just comment. Okay, so we are done with two types of assessment. First one was self-assessment, second one was professional assessment. Next one is scrutiny of returns. Scrutiny of returns. Now, let me explain you in a layman language from the heading itself. Scrutiny means examining, close examination. Returns means, as already told, it is a form which consists of all your information. So, scrutiny of return means whenever a registered person is filing his returns, the officer may sometimes scrutinize. Scrutinize means closely examine that returns. And if he finds that there is any discrepancies or any deviations, he may issue a notice asking explanation that why are such discrepancies occurring within 30 days. Okay. Then there may be two situations. Okay. Two situations may be, first is registered person is accepting and paying the tax. And for when he's paying the tax, he should ask that officer asked him for explanation. He should submit the explanation, right? After he submits the explanation, it may, if it is acceptable by the officer, he will close the matter. But when the explanation is not acceptable or not responded, when the other person, the person who didn't file the returns properly, if he is not responding in a proper way, or if he is accepting that there is discrepancies, but he is not taking any corrective actions, then the officer will take steps. What he will do? He will first conduct the audit of the taxpayer. Then he will start a special audit. Then he will inspect about where all are the locations of the business of the taxpayer. Then he will start to demand and recover all the provisions. Okay. This is scrutiny of returns. Next is best judgment assessment. In best judgment assessment, here also the name itself says that the officer will assess the tax liability to the best of his judgment. Best of his judgment on the available information. But when does the best of the judgment assessment happens? It happens when a taxable person has not filed any returns, or when a person has not registered for GST, even though he is liable. Okay. So generally what happens when, if you're a registered tax person, okay, so you will get a system automated generated mails that you have to file return on time. Okay. Once the due date is crossed, again a system generated mail or message will be sent to all the defaulters, reminding them that they have failed to file the return on time. Okay. And then after the 5 days from such notice, the defaulter will be getting a time, more extended time of 15 days to file the returns. But if then also they fail to furnish, then proper officer or the tax authorities will start making the best judgment assessment and upload the summary of that assessment uh, of order, considering they will consider few things. What are those things? First is the details of the outward supplier. Next is details of the inward supplier, and then e-way bills. And finally, the other information available. He'll assess accordingly. And if the person files the return within 30 days, he will withdraw that order. Okay, this is in case of registered person didn't file returns or assessment of non-filers. Coming to next, when a person didn't register or he cancelled his registration, even though he is liable to register, under GST, he cancelled his registration or he never registered only. So that time, proper officer may assess the best judgment on the available information. But before passing the order, he will first send a 15 days notice. And again, the further order passing and all will depend upon the replies, considering the notice. Next, so we are done with what all? First one was self-assessment. Second one was provisional. Third one was scrutiny of returns. Fourth one was best judgment. Lastly, it is summary assessment. Summary assessment is basically a fast track assessment. Okay. And it is only based on return filed by the assessee. It is a fast track assessment based on return filed by the assessee. And it is usually done only in case of defaulting taxpayers who don't file returns on time, they forget to file or late filings and all. Okay. And in this, what actually happens is whenever officer, the tax authority or any officer of the tax authority finds a evidence that the taxable person has incurred a liability to pay tax. As he finds that evidence, he goes to the additional or joint commissioner and takes permission. And he does all these things previously only to avoid any delay in passing the order. Because if he pass the order late, there may be changes in the revenue of the tax payable person, right? His revenue might get changed. Okay, so that's why he will take a prior permission from that additional and joint commissioner as soon as possible. As he finds the evidence, he goes and takes the permission for passing of orders. Then he will pass the order, and but when he pass the orders, only the additional commissioner or joint commissioner can withdraw those orders because they are the one who permitted him. They are the only authority to withdraw those orders also. Okay. Then within 30 days, against whom the order was passed, that is the taxable person, can file an application. Okay. He will file an application stating the reasons that what happened or any discrepancies and all. He will file an application to the to the additional court or additional court, that is additional commissioner or joint commissioner. Okay. Then, if additional commissioner or joint commissioner are satisfied that yes, there is that this order should be cancelled, they will withdraw the order. Okay, that is summary assessment. So basically, there are five types of assessment. First is self-assessment, next is provisional, third is scrutiny of returns, fourth is best judgment, and fifth is summary. And there are different modes of filing returns. There are three modes. And let me tell you, remember that all the returns are to be filed online only. Okay, there is no space for filing any returns offline. So there are few portals. First is GST and net portal, that is GST network portal. The main website, you can file return on that. Next is offline utilities provided by GSTN. There are offline utilities, but there also they provide you with computer networks only. In the offline offices also you're provided with computer networks and database to file your returns. That is also offline but online. Okay. Then GST Suvidha providers, they are entities helping you and guiding you how to file. But at the end, they will also provide you with some computer networks only to file. Then what is GST returns? Everybody is telling file GST return, who non-filers and all. But what is GST returns? As already discussed in the previous few minutes, it is a document containing details of income or sales or expenses or purchases which a taxpayer is required to file with tax administrative authorities. Okay, and it is used to calculate the net liability. Net liability means how much tax a person should pay. They can calculate on the basis of that, and they can keep a check also that a person who has self-assessed is have he paid the correct amount or no. Okay, and GST returns are broadly GST returns broadly includes purchases, means कहाँ पैसा लगा, purchases is expenses, sales that is income, output GST, and input tax credit. Okay, next. After that, furnishing the details of outward supply means all the details regarding your outward supply should be given in form GSTR returns, GST returns 1, form number 1. Okay. In this, every registered person, including the casual registered person, are liable to furnish the details. But there are few exceptions. First is input service distributor. Now, what is input service distributor? Input service distributor, I can explain you with an example. For example, one branch of Samsung is providing some service to other branch of Samsung. Then they are not liable to furnish. That is input service distributor. And if he is a non-resident taxable person, person paying tax under composition scheme, then person who is doing TDS, deducting tax at source, and also collecting tax at source. Who all collect tax at source? E-commerce. Okay. And every time due date will be GSTR returns of a month can be filed on 11th day of the succeeding month. For example, if my outstanding date is March 31st, then my due date is April 11th, 11th day of the succeeding month. Okay. But coming to the small taxpayers, small taxpayer years means whose aggregate annual turnover is up to 5 crores in the preceding financial year or the current financial year. Okay, they are small taxpayers. They have been allowed to file the returns quarterly about the outward supply. Okay, and they can file on the 13th day of the month following end of the quarter. Means quarter end, 13th day they should file it. 13th day of the month. And in outward supplies, whenever you furnish details about the outward supplies in GST or Form 1, that time you should provide details in 3 categories. Invoice-wise details, consolidated details, debit and credit notes. Invoice-wise details, it is simple. Inter and intrastate supplies of all the persons, all the supplies made to registered persons, and only interstate supplies made to unregistered person. That also value exceeding 2,50,000. Okay, it is given here. Inter and intrastate supplies made to registered person. And only interstate supplies made to unregistered person, that also value should exceed 2,50,000 in invoice wise details. Coming to consolidated, as you furnished your interstate हो गया यहाँ पे, so here intrastate supplies made to unregistered person. For each rate tax, as different goods have different rates, for each rate of tax you have to give a disclosure. And next other is, here again they are telling interstate supplies made to unregistered person up to 2,50,000. Here it is exceeding 2,50,000. Here up to 2,50,000 for each rate of tax separately for each state, as it is intrastate. Okay. Next is credit and debit notes. They are issued during the invoices. Okay. Whenever there is some returns like purchase return, sales return, that time instead of giving cash, few people give credit and debit notes. So that also should be disclosed. I hope this is clear. Next. That was all about GSTR 1. Okay. Now, let me tell you in summary form. See, already discussed about GSTR 1. Details of outward supplies of taxable goods
Means basically details of outward supply you're providing in GSTR1. Frequency is monthly and 11th of the next month is due date. Okay. Don't read this line. Now just read present is 11th of the next month. Okay. And if you're a small taxpayer, that is your aggregate business turnover is more than less than 5 crores, then 13th month of the succeeding quarter. GSTR 2 and 3 is suspended, so we won't be studying about that. Now let's come to GST returns 3B. So in GST returns 3B, you will just give a you will just file a simple return. Okay. What will be included in that? Summary of outward supplies along with input tax credit. Okay. Summary of outward supplies along with input tax credit is declared. And the payment of tax is affected by the payment taxpayer. See, whenever you file something, whenever there is a new entry of income, purchase, sale, or anything, that will affect your tax you paid. Or else in simple form, just let me tell you, GSTR 3B will have summary of your it will have summary of your outward supplies along with input tax credit. Okay, just remember this much. 3B means summary of outward supplies along with input tax credit. It should be filed monthly. That is 20th of the next month from the 20th day of the succeeding month. Let me take same example. If 31st March is my outstanding date for filing returns, then I can file my returns. Due date will be 20 April. Okay. And if it is quarterly report for the small taxpayers, then it will be 22nd or 24th of the next month of the end of quarter. If the quarter is ending, every quarter will have 3 months. If quarter is ending on March, okay, then my due date will be 22nd of April or 24th of April. That is all about 3B. It simply show it is a summary of outward supplies along with the input tax credit. So GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B is done. Next is GSTR 4. GSTR 4. GSTR 4 is filing of returns of the taxpayers who are registered under composition scheme. Who are registered under composition scheme. Okay, only for composition scheme registered taxpayers. They should file return annually and they should file on 30th of the next 30th day of the month succeeding the financial year. So financial year ends on 31st March. So that 31st March is the outstanding return file day. So they should, their due date will be 30th January because, sorry, March May financial year ending, next month is April, so it will be 30th April is their due date. And it is only for the taxpayers who are registered under composite scheme. GSTR 4. So we are done with GSTR 1, GSTR 3, that was GSTR 3B. Okay, GSTR 3B and then GSTR 4. Then coming to GSTR 5. GSTR 5 is all for only for non-resident foreign taxable person. Therefore, non-resident taxable persons also you can write. No need of this foreign word. Non-resident taxable person. They should file return monthly and that also 20th day of the next month. If the same example, 31st March is outstanding, then my due date will be 20 April because 20th of the next month. Next is GSTR 6. GSTR 6 is for input service distributor. Okay. Input service distributor to distribute the eligible input tax credit to its branches. So whenever there is one branch providing service to other branch, they can distribute the input tax credit to its other branches and they should file returns monthly for that and they're telling 13th day of the next month. So if my interest is outstanding on 31st March, then it will be due on 13th April. After that, it will be considered as you're crossing the due date. Then you will fall under the category of non-filers, and the whole thing will happen when best judgment assessment will happen. Okay, just link everything, it will become easy for you. So we are done with GSTR1. GSTR1 is about the outward supplies. Then GSTR3B is about outward supply with input tax credit. Then we did GSTR4. GSTR4 is for the persons registered for composite scheme. Next, GSTR5 is non-taxable, non-resident taxable person. GSTR6 is for input service distributor. Next is GSTR7. It is for government authorities deducting tax at source. Okay, they should also file it in monthly, but 10th of next month. 10th of next month. So same example, if I take 31st March is outstanding, then 10th April is my due date. Then that is for, okay, this is for government authorities deducting TDS at source. Next is GSTR 8. GSTR 8 will have returns, filing of returns about the details of suppliers affected through e-commerce operators. And it always collects amount at source. E-commerce collect amount at source. They should file returns monthly, and this is also 10. Okay, whenever there includes TDS or TCS, both will be 10th of the next month. And GSTR 9 is for normal taxpayers. They should do annually, and their due date is 31st December of next financial year. If I am considering assessment of the year 2005 and 6, then my due date will be 2006 to 7, 31st December 2006 to 7. Okay, so GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, GSTR 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then GSTR 10 is the last one. That is written by those taxpayers whose GST registration is cancelled. Okay, and they should file returns only once the GST registration is cancelled or surrender within 3 months from the date of cancellation or date of cancellation order. See, one is you get intimation that it is cancelled, you're gonna get cancelled. That is date of cancellation. When they give you certificate ki you're cancelled. Okay. And one is when they pass the order, your registration will get cancelled. Whichever date is earlier will be the date of filing of return due date. So basically we have learned GSTR 1, 3B, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's see from back now. GSTR 10 was about whose it is got cancelled. The registration. GSTR 9 is for normal taxpayer. 8 is for e-commerce operators and who's collecting tax at source. 7 is for government authorities TDS. 6 is for input service distributor. 5 is for non-resident taxable person. 4 is for composite scheme. 3B is for outward supply along with input tax credit, and 1 is for only input tax credit. Sorry. One is for only outward supplier. Outward supply with input tax credit. Then registered under composition scheme, non-resident taxable person and input service distributor. Next is TDS and government authorities. Next is TCS and e-commerce suppliers. For next for normal taxpayers, and lastly, whose registration GST have been cancelled. So guys, this is all about the assessment and return. I hope it is very clear, and you might be thinking that I have left many slides in between, but these all slides, this table consists of the summary of the slides given above. See, this is the same matter given below in slide in table manner so that you guys can remember it easily. So thank you everyone. Please subscribe and click on the bell icon for my next YouTube video. You will get an instant notification as I upload it. Plus, if you have any doubts, you can comment and ask. And please like and share. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.